Ladies and gentlemen, grab your seat, get comfortable, because what we are about to witness in Miami is not just another tennis match. It is not just another round of 16 clash. It is a full-blown identity crisis wrapped in a tennis skirt, and the outcome is going to tell us everything we need to know about whether Alex Eala's rise is legitimate or whether she is about to hit the most complicated wall of her young career. Alex Eala versus Karolina Muchova. Say it out loud, let it sit. Because this is not about rankings. This is not about form. This is about something far more fundamental. This is structure versus chaos. This is rhythm versus disruption. This is the modern game versus everything that refuses to play by its rules. And I need you to understand something right now. On paper, this looks like a contrast. But in reality, this is a collision course. And only one player is going to walk away with their game intact. Let me paint the picture for you because the details matter here. Alex Eala is the prototype of the modern aggressive baseliner. She wants patterns. She craves repetition. She builds her game on control, on those heavy lefty forehands that drag you wide, on deep cross-court exchanges that wear you down rally after rally after rally. She is physical. She is relentless. She is the kind of player who will grind you into the hard court over 2.5 hours and still fresher than you do at the finish line. That is who Eala is. That is her identity. And she has been proving it all tournament long. Look at the evidence. She just came off a 3-hour marathon against Siegmund. 3 hours against a player who thrives on disruption, who loves awkward patterns, who will do everything in her power to take away your rhythm. And Eala survived. Not just survived, she outlasted. She endured. She showed that when the match turns into a war of attrition, she has the ammunition to keep firing until the other side runs out of bullets. Then she faced Lynette, a structured counterpuncher, riding a wave of confidence after upsetting Svitolina. And what did Eala do? She did not just survive that match. She controlled it. Down 3-5 in the second set, staring at the exit door, watching her tournament life flash before her eyes, she found something different. Patience. Composure. Decision-making under the kind of pressure that breaks lesser players. And then she dominated the tiebreak. That is not just physical resilience. That is mental growth happening in real time. That is a player who is learning how to win when winning feels impossible. So here she is, riding momentum, carrying confidence, looking like a player who has figured something out about herself. And now she walks into a match against Karolina Muchova, and everything is about to get complicated. Because Muchova is not Siegmund. Let me be absolutely clear about that. And she is not Lynette either. She is a much more complete version of the problem Eala has been practicing against. She is the final exam after you have been doing homework all week. She is the boss level after you have been grinding through the tutorial. Muchova does not just disrupt. She disrupts with purpose. She disrupts with a plan. Her slice is not defensive. It is strategic. It keeps the ball low, forces you to hit up, and the moment you give her a ball that sits even slightly higher than you intended, she is already moving forward. And once Karolina Muchova gets to the net, she is one of the best finishers on the entire WTA team. Tour. Let that sink in. Eala wants to play from the baseline. Eala wants long rallies. Eala wants to dictate the tempo and control the geometry of the court. And Muchova's entire game is designed to take that away before it ever gets established. She does not let you settle. She does not let you breathe. She changes height, spin, tempo, direction, sometimes within the same rally. She is the human embodiment of controlled chaos. This is not a test of who can hit harder. This is a test of who can impose their identity on the match. And right now, the question burning in my mind is whether Eala's structure can survive Muchova's chaos long enough to turn this into the physical war she needs it to be. Now let us talk about Miami, because the conditions in South Florida are not a footnote here. They are not some minor detail we can gloss over. They are a variable that could swing this match in either direction. And you need to understand why this matters so much. The humidity, the heavy air, the slower effective conditions, all of this makes rallies longer. It makes it harder to hit clean winners. The ball sits up a little more. It hangs in the air a little longer. The court plays slower than you might expect for a hard court surface. And theoretically, That should favor the player who is willing to stay in the rally, who is physically stronger, who can outlast the opponent through sheer force of will and superior conditioning. That is Eala. On paper, Miami should help her. The conditions should play right into her hands. But here is the twist that nobody is talking about. Those exact same conditions make Muchova's disruption more uncomfortable. When the ball stays low and heavy, when she is slicing it and dropping it and changing spin with every shot, you are not getting clean contact. You are constantly adjusting. Your footwork is never quite settled. Your timing is always half a beat off. Your strike zone keeps shifting because you cannot predict where the ball is going to bounce or how it is going to behave when it gets there. And if you are even slightly off balance, you are giving Muchova exactly what she wants. A ball she can attack. A ball she can transition behind. A ball that lets her take control of the point before you even realize you have lost it. That is the trap. That is the danger zone. So the conditions do not clearly favor one player. They amplify both strengths. They make this matchup even more volatile, even more unpredictable. And that is what makes this whole thing so fascinating and so dangerous for both women. Let us get tactical for a moment, because everything in this match is going to revolve around one pattern. Eala's lefty forehand cross-court into Muchova's backhand side. That is the foundation of her game. That is how she builds points. That is the hammer she uses to nail opponents to the wall. She pulls you wide with that heavy lefty forehand. She opens the court. She creates angles that did not exist before she hit the ball. And then she finishes with either a backhand down the line or an inside-out forehand that catches you flat-footed and scrambling. It is predictable in the best way. It is relentless. It is effective against most players on tour because most players cannot handle the weight of the ball, cannot handle the depth, cannot handle the relentless pressure of being pinned to one corner while Eala loads up for the kill shot. But Muchova is not most players. She is not going to try to out-hit Eala from that position. That is not her game. She is not going to engage in a baseline slugfest and hope to survive. No, she is going to slice it. She is going to keep it low. She is going to take away the height that Eala needs to generate her heavy topspin. And this is where the match flips. This is where the whole equation changes. If that slice floats, if Muchova does not execute it perfectly, Eala will punish her. She will step in, take the ball early, and dictate the rally the way she wants to. She will impose her structure on the chaos. But if that slice stays low and skids, if it forces Eala to hit from below her strike zone, if it takes away the leverage, she needs to generate that heavy spin. Suddenly she is the one under pressure. Suddenly, she cannot generate the same penetration. Suddenly, her margin drops. And that is exactly where Muchova wants her. That is the trapdoor opening beneath Eala's feet. Now, there is another layer here that we have to address, because it could be the deciding factor in this match. Eala's second serve. This is the one area where Muchova can really attack. And I mean really attack. Eala's second serve tends to sit up. It does not have a lot of penetration. It does not kick the way you want it to against a player with Muchova's returning ability. Against most players, Eala can get away with it because her movement and her defense are strong enough to reset the rally. She serves, she recovers, she gets into position, she grinds. The second serve is a minor weakness because her other strengths compensate for it. But against Muchova, that is dangerous. Because Muchova does not just return. She transitions. She can step in, take that second serve early, chip it low, and immediately move forward. She can turn a neutral situation into an attacking opportunity. Before Eala even finishes her service motion. And suddenly, Eala is not starting a rally. She is trying to pass from a defensive position on shot 2. She is scrambling. She is reacting instead of dictating. She is playing Muchova's game instead of her own. If that pattern starts repeating, if Muchova is consistently attacking the second serve and coming forward, it puts enormous pressure on Eala's service games. And that is where things can get very uncomfortable very quickly. That is where the wheels can come off. But hold on. Before you write this off as a Muchova victory, before you chalk this up as a foregone conclusion, we need to talk about her problem in this matchup. And it is a big one. Karolina Muchova does not want long matches. She does not thrive in 3-set wars of attrition. She does not want to be on court for 3 hours exchanging ground strokes until her legs turn to concrete. She wants quick points. She wants to control the tempo. She wants to win on her terms, not on yours. She wants to be the artist, not the laborer. And Alex Eala is one of the worst opponents you can possibly face if you are trying to avoid that scenario. We just watched Eala play for over 3 hours against Siegman. No drop in intensity, no panic, no fading in the third set, no signs of physical distress. She looked like she could have played another 3 hours if the match required it. Even in the Lynette match, after that physical battle, after all those miles on her legs, she still looked stronger at the end than she did at the beginning. So, if Eala can force this match into extended baseline exchanges, if she can resist the temptation to overhit, if she can simply keep the ball deep and heavy and refuse to give Muchova easy balls to attack, this becomes a physical test. This becomes a war of attrition. And that is where Muchova's history starts to matter. Because she has had injury issues. She has talked publicly about how demanding the tour is physically. She has had stretches of her career derailed by her body breaking down. And when matches become about endurance instead of creativity, when they become about legs instead of hands, when they become about who can outlast whom in the brutal Miami humidity, that is not where Muchova is most comfortable. So now the match becomes very simple in theory. If the points are short, Muchova is in control. If the points are long, Eala is in control. And the entire match will be about who wins that battle. It is a tug of war, and the rope is made of rallies. Let us talk about the mental side, because this is not equal either. This is another dimension where the matchup gets interesting. Muchova has been here before. Grand Slam finals, big matches, pressure situations where every game feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. She understands how to manage momentum swings. She understands how to handle tight moments. She has closed big matches against big opponents. She has the scar tissue that only comes from fighting through the fire and coming out the other side. Eala is still building that experience. She is still writing those chapters in her career. She is still collecting those reference points that veterans rely on when the pressure starts to squeeze. But here is what is interesting. In the last match, she showed something new. Down 3-5, staring at defeat, watching her tournament slip away, she did not rush. She did not panic. She stayed within her game. She trusted her structure. And then she dominated the tiebreak. That is not just physical. That is mental growth. That is a player learning how to compete at a higher level in real time. And now she gets tested again. But this time, it is a different kind of pressure. Not scoreboard pressure, tactical pressure. The kind where you are constantly being pulled out of your comfort zone, where every rally feels unfamiliar, where you cannot settle into a rhythm because your opponent refuses to give you one. That is much harder to deal with than simply being down a set. Scoreboard pressure is external. Tactical pressure is internal. It messes with your confidence. It makes you question your shots. It makes you hesitate when you should be decisive. And add one more factor. The crowd in Miami. Eala is not just another player. She has massive support. The energy, the noise, the emotional lift. It is real. It is tangible. You can feel it in the stadium when she plays. And in long matches, that matters. When the rallies get longer, when the points get tighter, when fatigue starts to kick in, that extra push from the crowd can shift momentum. It can give you one more ball, one more step, one more ounce of fight when you thought you had nothing left. And for Muchova, that is another layer she has to deal with. Playing against the opponent and playing against the atmosphere. It is exhausting in ways that do not show up in the statistics. So when you put all of this together, the question becomes crystal clear. Can Eala stay disciplined enough to not get dragged into Muchova's game? Or does Muchova succeed in breaking her rhythm before it ever gets established? Because if Eala starts overhitting, if she tries to force winners off low balls, if she loses patience and starts going for too much too soon, this match gets very difficult very quickly. Muchova will slice her apart and make her look like she does not belong on the same court. She will expose every weakness and exploit every hesitation. But if Eala stays calm, stays structured, keeps the ball deep, and forces Muchova to play one extra shot every time, this match turns into exactly what she wants. A physical, grinding battle where the player with the better legs and the better lungs wins. A match where structure eventually suffocates creativity. And in those conditions, with her current momentum, with the way she has been handling pressure, with the crowd behind her and the confidence flowing through her veins, this is a lot closer than it might look on paper. This is a lot more dangerous for Muchova than the rankings suggest. Can Eala's structure survive Muchova's disruption long enough to turn this into a physical war? Because if it does, this might not just be another win. This might be the match where her level becomes undeniable. This might be the moment where we stop asking whether she belongs with the best and start assuming it. This might be the breakthrough performance that changes everything. The clock is ticking, the court is waiting, and one of these players is about to prove exactly who they are. Tell me what you think in the comments. Can Eala survive the chaos, or does Muchova disrupt her way to the quarterfinals? Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, because this story is just getting started. Peace.